One of my favorite things about the Matrix film series is the attention to detail put into the making of them. The last time I was watching it, I got this idea to put together this video, this list, this compilation of my favorite little details and Easter eggs and plot points and symbolism that maybe I didn't notice in my first or second watch, but after watching it for like the millionth time, I started to notice this stuff and wanted to share my favorite ones with you. So let's begin. So the first one on my list is Neo meets with the Oracle 3 times, one in each of the first 3 movies, and each time she offers him a piece of food or piece of candy, and the first one's a cookie, and in the other 2 it's a little like red candy thing. When you put the moments from each film back to back, you can notice something interesting about Neo's character development. Check it out.
Here. Take a cookie. I promise by the time you're done eating it, you'll feel right as rain. Candy?
You already know if I'm going to take it?
Wouldn't be much of an oracle if I didn't.
But if you already know, how can I make a choice?
Because you didn't come here to make the choice. You've already made it. You're here to try to understand why you made it. I still love candy.
No, thank you.
So in the first one, he takes the cookie without thinking twice. In the second, he's a lot more skeptical and questions her before taking the piece of candy. And in the third one, he just refuses. Speaking of the Oracle, when Neo mentions the Oracle when he's talking to the architect scoffs and goes, please. And when he's talking to the Oracle and mentions the Oracle kind of scoffs at the architect. It's funny, so you can probably get that these 2 programs don't really get along too well. Check it out.
She would undoubtedly be its mother.
The Oracle.
Please.
The architect told me that if I didn't return to the source, Zion would be destroyed by midnight tonight.
Please.
There were some subtle hints throughout the second Matrix movie that hint at the big twist at the end, that the Matrix was rebooted 5 times before what we're seeing right now. I definitely didn't notice them in my first watch, but check them out.
It's happening exactly as before. Well, not exactly.
My name is Neo.
Yes, I'm the Keymaker. I've been waiting for you.
You know, your predecessors had much more respect. I have survived your predecessors, and I will survive you.
I also like how when Neo opens the door and meets the Keymaker for the first time, he says, I've been expecting you, and Neo doesn't ask, like, what do you mean? Why have you been expecting me? I've never met you before. All he knows is that he's supposed to go there and find him. Like, why were you waiting for me? And also when the Merovingian says, your predecessors has more respect, Neo doesn't go, what do you mean predecessors? Maybe one question would have saved a lot of confusion later on, but hey, it's a movie. Choice and Neo making choices and trying to see past the choices presented to him is a big recurring theme throughout these movies. And here's a little compilation I put together, mostly just from the first movie alone, about all the little decisions Neo has to make. There's probably some I'm missing, but whatever. Check it out.
Either you choose to be at your desk on time from this day forth, or you choose to find yourself another job.
There are 2 ways out of this building. One is that scaffold, the other is in their custody.
One of these lives has a future, and one of them does not.
Right now, there's only one rule. Our way or the highway.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
You're going to have to make a choice. In the one hand, you'll have Morpheus's life. And in the other hand, you'll have your own.
The door to your right leads to the source and the salvation of Zion. The door to your left leads back to the Matrix, to her, and to the end of your species.
This one's not too obscure or anything, but it's a little detail that I like. So the very first movie, the opening scene, takes place in the heart of the city hotel and in room 303. And you'll notice at the end of the movie, it also ends in the heart of the city hotel, room 303. Also, speaking of room 303, it's interesting that that's the first room where we see Trinity, and when we see Neo for the first time, he's in room 101, because he's the one. Ha, big joke. Get it? There's even another little bit of detail that I like from The Matrix 4, which is that in the very beginning, when, again, we see the Heart of the City Hotel sign, the E in the sign is out, just like in all the other times we see it. Like, that's such a small detail, but I like that they kept that in. I like this little bit of dialogue continuity from the first time Neo meets Morpheus to the very last time they meet and say goodbye.
It's an honor to meet you.
No. The honor is mine.
It was an honor, sir.
No, the honor is still mine.
This next one, I don't know if it's a mistake or was intentional or what, but notice the company Neo works for is called Metacortex. On the outside of the building, it's spelled Metacortex with an X at the end. Later, when he's running through the office, we can see in the background that banner, it's spelled Tex, T-E-C-H-S, like technology. All right, this next one admittedly took me way too long to notice, but it's a big obvious one. It's kind of important. If you didn't know it, it's going to blow your mind, but check it out. So, you know how in the architect scene at the end of the second movie, we see all the whole wall of TV cameras in his room? We've seen that before. In the very first movie, when the camera is zooming into Neo in the interrogation room. That creepy, decrepit old building in the city where Neo first meets Morpheus and is offered the red pill and the blue pill, that's also the same building later on where they get ambushed by the SWAT team and where Mouse gets killed. If you'll notice, he actually gets killed in the same room as the red pill, blue pill scene. Those are the same chairs and everything, and they only had so many sets, and they're like, well, let's just light it differently, shoot it from a different angle. I also like this little detail here of how in the same scene where Mouse gets killed, he's wearing a shirt with a skeleton on it. Everyone knows those cool red leather chairs that Morpheus has. Well, it's kind of funny to notice that that's not the only place those chairs appear. They also appear in the scene where Mouse gets killed, because we said it's the same room. They appear in the construct scene. They appear towards the end of the second Matrix movie where they're plotting. They also appear in Matrix 4, but a little bit cleaner. In each of the first three Matrix films, the Nebuchadnezzar crew has the same Lincoln Continental car that they drive around. I'm guessing they just have this car on file and they load it in for them each time they have to go into the Matrix. Another little detail is, notice the license plate for the car is AA034, AA being AA like the batteries, copper tops, humans are batteries for the machines. The number 101 is a recurring symbol throughout the movies. The first time we see Neo, he's in apartment room number 101, and then 101 is the floor or address of the restaurant where the Merovingian is. 101 is also the number of that freeway where the big chase scene happens in the second movie. And in the fourth movie, Neo's modal simulation thing is modal number 101. Maybe it means nothing. No idea. I thought it was interesting that the phrase "time is always against us" appears 3 times throughout the series.
Time is always against us.
I know time is always against us.
Time is always against us.
In the first movie, before Cypher betrays everybody, there were some really subtle but cool little details that give some hints about his characterization, that he doesn't like where he is, doesn't like that he took the red pill, he hates the rest of the Nebuchadnezzar crew. Check this out. So in the whole tasty wheat scene, if you'll notice, Cypher is not sitting at the table with everyone else. He's in the background. And you think, okay, well, that probably might not mean much, but in the Morpheus is fighting Neo scene, he's also in the background. Everyone's hanging out at the table, playing cards, it seems, and Cypher's off in the back on his own. Also, while we're on the Morpheus is fighting Neo scene, if you'll notice on the table, they're playing cards, they're playing poker, Go Fish or whatever, and I have to wonder, where did they get the playing cards? Like, did they bring them from the Matrix? Did they somehow survive the apocalypse? Did they find them in the rubble? Did they make them in Zion? I don't know. This next one is quick and subtle, but pretty cool. In the scene where Cypher is talking to Agent Smith at the restaurant, during the master establishing shot of the restaurant, you'll notice in the reflection of the glass, you can see the other 2 agents standing ominously in the background. These next 2 could just be me because I'm a big fan of Stanley Kubrick movies, but check it out. This shot of the explosion coming out of the elevator, pushing the door, and all the fire coming through the lobby always kind of reminded me of that shot from The Shining where the blood's shooting out of the elevator. Especially when you put them back to back, you can see them. After Neo makes Smith explode at the end of the first movie, and he's standing there in the hallway as the pieces of Smith fly past, and it's only on screen for a second, but Neo's got like this shine, this glow, this halo around him. That image always kind of reminded me of the end of 2001 when the astronaut guy is reborn as the Star Child or whatever it's called. Notice in this next shot, as Morpheus and Trinity are getting out of the car, they both clearly look down at the camera lens. And that has to be intentional. If it wasn't, someone probably would have seen it on the shoot or definitely in the editing because they're going through this frame by frame. But why? I don't know. I mean, they do look pretty cool in their, leather jackets and sunglasses. In the first movie, the music playing very quietly in the background of the Oracle scene is Minor Swing by Django Reinhardt. I'm going to increase the volume a bit here so you can hear it. And here's the part in the actual Django Reinhardt song. Also, speaking of Reinhardt, that's also the name of Neo's boss at Metacortex, Mr. Reinhardt.
Do I make myself clear?
Yes, Mr. Reinhardt, perfectly clear.
Coincidence? I don't know. Notice on his desk, he's got a silver metallic coffee mug. I imagine that doesn't insulate very well. It would get, the whole thing would get hot if you fill that with coffee. I'm probably thinking too much about this. In the second movie, right before Neo meets Seraph, he's walking through this marketplace, and there's a quick shot of some religious iconography. It looks like Christianity and some other Eastern religions are there, and that's just a nice little hint at some of the religious and philosophical ideas behind these movies. Also, notice the Heineken advertisement. In the second movie, when Neo's meeting with the Oracle, notice she does a little flick with her hand when talking with him. And notice, along with her flicks, the crows fly. It looks like she was controlling the crows, but it could just be a coincidence. I mean, birds, they flap their wings all the time. This next one's not too obscure, but it's kind of fun. In the third movie, when they're chasing the train man, notice there's a billboard for Tasty Wheat. And if you look closely, notice the slogan for Tasty Wheat is everything the body needs. Also, in the same scene in the subway, when they're chasing the train man, there's another billboard for the city power supply system, and it says maximum energy. And that's also the same power plant later on that Niobe and her crew blow up as part of their plan. In this quick shot here, the way the three of them are running always kind of reminded me of the end of Star Fox 64, how the they have that stupid run. This one is really subtle. Where Neo flies away at the end of the first movie is supposed to be the same street intersection where Smith crashes him down at the end of the third fight. I'm going to try and superimpose the two images so you can see this. There's a total of 576 days between the date we see at the beginning of the first movie and the date we see at the end of the first movie. I guess that's the amount of time that's spanned across the plot. The intros of Matrix 1 and 4 are basically the same, and it's subtle and kind of hard to see, but if you'll notice the numbers that form up there, it seems to be the exact same number, which is 5550690. The whole, "Hey Mikey, I think he likes it" line is actually a reference to an old cereal commercial.
Hey Mikey, I think he likes it.
He likes it! Hey Mikey!
That little flick Neo does of his nose is actually a reference to Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee used to do a little move like that in his old kung fu movies. In the second movie, when Neo and his crew are departing and Kid shows up and gives Neo a spoon and says one of the orphans gave it to him. I'm just trying to wrap my head around the logic of this. So, Neo had the interaction with Spoon Boy in the first movie. It was just him and the Spoon Boy in the Oracle's lobby. So, why does anyone know about that moment between Neo and the Spoon Boy? Is that just, part of Neo's legend? Is, the story spread around, that, oh, he was, bent the spoon with that kid? Is spoon just, like a symbol in Zion that everyone knows what that means? Or was the Spoon Boy freed and told people about it? I can't see Neo bragging about that, hey guys, I can bend spoons, I don't know. It makes no sense to me. Speaking of the Spoon Boy scene, really quick, if you notice, The spoon that Neo bends, that he's presented to, is the sixth spoon. That's a reference to the fact that this is the sixth cycle of the Matrix, Neo being the sixth one. That got me thinking about another one of my old favorite TV shows, which is The Prisoner. The main character's name in that is number 6. And then I thought, wait, that's not the only reference to The Prisoner in the Matrix series. Towards the end of the first movie, when Neo's running through the apartment of those two old ladies, it's subtle, but if you freeze frame it, you'll notice that on the TV, they're watching The Prisoner. They're watching the very first episode of The Prisoner. Here's the moment that's from in the episode. And then I went and rewatched that episode of The Prisoner and saw this moment.
Wait! Wait!
Who's it?
And then there's the whole scene where number 2's showing 6 that they've been watching him his whole life, and the architect does the same thing with Neo in that room with the TV screens. Well, that is it for my list. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.